Hi everybody. We're coming to you as potential authors wanting to get a book out there. So we want you guys to be like a potential publishing firm.
Okay, so this is our world building project, Eclipsing Fate, by me, Angel, Akshay, and WeiyiC.
And so the story starts off on a planet called Chromathar. It's divided into two nations, one called Lunova and the other one being called Celebora, and it has two moons. Lunova has a light orange moon, and it's definitely less developed and more vulnerable. They used to have great relations with Celebora, however, due to the takeover of a false god, the two nations no longer get along. And this initial leader or god that they had got killed, and was replaced by a false leader who's now just acting in his own selfish intentions.
Okay, and the other region present in Chromathar is called Celebora. Celebora has a light purple moon. It's more of a democratic nation. They open trade with humans, and as a result, are more technologically advanced, and as a society, just strive further. Yeah. And this is our protagonist. His name is Astraeus. He's half Selenite, half Lunovian. They're pretty tall creatures, and his skin is purple. And to his right is the Selenite god. And in Astraeus' hand is a ring which his father gave him that will be very important in the story later on.
And then other characters that you'll end up running into our story are Valius and Naira, who are Astraeus' father, his parents. Razor, Oria, Dara, and Nat are characters who act as Astraeus' friends and allies to him. And then General Casey, he's the chief of the Selenite army, and he's a bit hard-headed.
Okay, so our story starts in Lunova, where Astraeus was born to Valius and Naira. His parents had initially planned to visit Lunova for a short time. After the god king seized control of the nation, the borders were closed, trapping them. And despite the harsh conditions of Lunova, Valius and Naira tried to shield Astraeus from the worst of it, trying to give him a loving childhood. But on his 10th birthday, they attempted to celebrate with a small birthday cake, but when they tried to light candles, they were caught by Lunovian enforcers because fire was extremely outlawed, because it symbolized Celebor's freedom. And the officers punished them brutally, and Astraeus' parents were taken away, with Valius giving him his ring and telling him that there is a light beyond these walls before they were separated. And after this loss, Astraeus was kind of left to fend for himself. He had to quickly adapt to the harsh ways of Lunova, just trying to avoid danger and eventually find a way to escape. And he realized that in between the oceans separating the two nations, there was this like kind of fish creature called Ravenor, which would eat anything, which kind of prevented people from going from side to side. But he noticed that when an eclipse would happen, the Ravenor would become timid and wouldn't really come out to eat anything. So on the night of an eclipse, Astraeus seized his opportunity, and he found an old transport pod buried in the ice and managed to get it working. He eventually launched himself into the ocean, and for 4 days he fought exhaustion and fear, surviving on minimal supplies. Just as the eclipse was fading, the ring his father gave him glowed with a mysterious energy, propelling the pod forward and protecting him from the Ravenor. He finally reached Celebora.
Oh, wait, sorry. And so from here now we are in Act 2, and at this point now Astraeus has arrived in Celebora, and he's just amazed by the local city that he's currently in. He's just amazed by the technology and just how advanced it is compared to Lunova. And he meets a man named Razor, and they quickly become friends. And Razor even gives him a flat to stay in. So now he has a place to stay in Celebora, and he just kind of he experiences what life in Celebora is like, and experiencing this freedom, it creates more resentment towards the Lunovian government for him, because now he knows everything that was kind of what he could have had. And so from here on out, he just goes on to kind of find people who are like-minded. But a lot of Selenites, and even Razor himself, are kind of against his whole idea of liberation for the Lunovians, because in their mind they're thinking, well, hey, we have everything we need. Why do we want to, you know, have a conflict with Lunova? And also Lunova has a huge army and a god. Like that's too much. That's doing way too much. And so he feels now very conflicted because he still wants to liberate the Lunovians. And so he searches out to find more people who are like-minded. And one person he comes across is Oria. And Oria she's a soldier. She's part of the Selenite army. And her parents were spies sent to Lunova. And so they kind of have an idea of what Lunovians have been through. And so she's within the military, she's part of an alliance called the LLA, or the Lunovian Liberation Alliance. And their whole goal is to basically liberate the Lunovians. But she mentions to him that in order to become part of the LLA, you have to join the military and prove that you're either a Selenite or you're an ally to the Selenite people. And so now we cut to 2 years where Astraeus, he's successfully become a general within the Selenite army, and he's part of the LLA. And at this point, the LLA, they have many times now, they've tried to petition to General Casey, who's he oversees the military, to try to liberate the Lunovian army, the Lunovian people. And so initially General Casey he's pretty much, against this liberation. But with one meeting that not only Astraeus and Oria, but also Casey, who's a human, it's not Casey, Nat, who's General Casey's son. And also Dara, who's also like Astraeus, he's half Selenite and half Lunovian. They kind of get to him. And he finally decides to assemble T404, which is a task force sent to Lunova in hopes of liberating Lunovians. And it's comprised of 25 soldiers, including Astraeus, Oria, Dara, and Nat. And now they're sent off to Lunova.
Okay, Astraeus and his team started a mission that seems impossible. Only 25 people against Lunova's mighty army. But before they left, Chief Casey mysteriously told Astraeus, "So this is a whale of a great figure. You will understand in time." That night, Astraeus sat at his table, thinking. Slowly, he fell asleep under soft purple moonlight. So in the dream, he found himself floating above the city. Below him, a terrible battle was happening, like as you guys can see in this picture. So soldiers were fighting with primitive weapons. Dead bodies covered the ground. But what shocked him was that the citizens were not helping the rebels. Even though the rebels took the moral high ground, instead, the citizens are fighting for the ruler who makes them suffer. So then Astraeus realized this was an old battle in Lunova's history. A group of rebels had tried to end a cruel government, but they failed. Suddenly, the battlefield disappeared, and he was now in a small, quiet room. In front of him, there's a small old man. The old man smiled and asked him, "Do you know who I am?" Astraeus slowly calmed down and answered, "Are you the god of Selvora?" The old man nodded and told him a shocking truth. The god of Lunova had been replaced by an impostor. That was why Lunova became a place of dictatorship and suffering. So Astraeus kept asking himself about what he should do. The god said, "What you just saw is the answer." So at the end of the dream, the god touched his forehead, and the strong power flowed into him. Astraeus realized the upcoming battle is not going to be a clash of weapons, but a war of ideas. He had to awaken the people of Lunova with the truth.
I think it's frozen.
So afterwards, he and his team used the power of Eclipse and the ring to go to Lunova, like how he got to Selvora before. So they had and gathered information. Soon they discovered that Lunova had a special underground energy that could send information directly into someone's mind. So they find a giant crystal that connected to this energy. So Astrius used the power given to him by the god of Selvora. He sent a message to all of the Lunovians, your god is a fake. So like fire spreading dry grass, the truth moved quickly, and people woke up. So cities started to rebel. Astrius united the rebel force soon. The Lunova's army fell apart. So without a lot of fighting, they gave up. Lunova's capital city was taken, and the false god was defeated. So Astrius did not want to be a king. His goal is freedom. So he helped Lunova build a new system. One system based on democracy, inspired by the way Selvora has been governed. Okay, that's our whole story. Let's have takeaways. So our story has a very strong real-world meaning by showing the difference between Lunova's closed and backward society and Selvora's open and advanced ones. It highlighted the benefit of democracy. It also criticizes the hypocrisy of pretending to support democracy while actually ruling as a dictator through mystery and deception. This story also shows how important it is to mobilify the people when trying to help them overthrow their ruler, like what Astrius did. Spreading information, shaping the public opinion, stirring people's dissatisfaction with the ruler, and united everyone's strengths. Those are keys to success. And that's
You have a hand over here.
So how did he get from his original home to what's the
So
Silver? So how did he get there? Because you said he traveled by boat, but aren't they different planets?
No, they're different nations.
Oh,
They-
different
they're on the
nations.
same
Yeah, they're on
planet.
Okay.
they're just separated by that.
Oh, it's just that he said different moons. So is it just that the moon is on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Are all the characters in this story aliens, and are there two different types of aliens in the two nations?
So there's two. So yeah, most of them are aliens. They're kind of the same species, but they belong to like to the different nations. So like you have the Linovians and the Selenites, and then there's like two humans, which Nat and General Casey. But yeah.
How did you come up with the names for your nation?
We just brainstormed. We had to go through a few like generators online, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Just kind of
find
whatever
something
sounded
that seems
funny.
like not commonly used in like
Yeah.
streams.
Yeah, alien-like.
What kind of book will this be?
A sci-fi fantasy.
A novel?
Yeah.
So like a literary novel? Like,
Oh, me.
Wait, what age was Astraeus when his parents were taken away?
It was times.
And like, he seemed like such a strong character. Like, I don't know if this is what we're supposed to be asking, but like, just from like a character standpoint, how did he go from like a 10-year-old with no parents on like a cruel nation to like becoming like so like strong and like willing to like fight through all the struggle?
I guess it was just kind of having to adapt to like Lunova's whole system, because like I said, they're a very like closed society with a ton of harsh rules, like a ton of huge restrictions. So even growing up with his parents, he still had to face that. So excuse me, it wasn't that hard of like a hit for him necessarily, because life was already hard enough, and you know that kind of, I guess he used that as fuel
Okay.
to escape. You know, yeah.
Will this be a standalone novel or a series?
Good question.
I think it can be a series because like our story could be very long, especially for the war part. Like we can extend that to a lot of details.
Okay.
Is it like Keeper of the Lost City long? Or like, long to go both ways.
Hopefully not that. But
Yeah.
like-
Yeah.
Katie, I think long goes in one way.
So I'm interested in his parents' origin stories, like two conflicting nations. How did they like meet and fall in love? Why did the Selenian, right? Parent move to like this harsh, cold military thing instead of vice versa?
Well, originally Lunova wasn't actually like a super closed society. It was pretty open, just like Celavora. But it was once the god was like secretly killed, and then a dictator took over. That's when it became very closed. And how they got trapped there was they were visiting Lunova, and then that's when everything kind of took place, and then the borders closed on them, and they were stuck there, and they just kind of had to be for themselves.
And that also kind of relate to our reflection, which is like the dictatorship. One person can change like the fate of the whole country. All the person in that country change.
Okay, we'll have to stop there. Thank you so much. You generated some